We are operating on a frequency of 52 megacycles by authority of the Federal Communications Commission. A test program follows. To you who are trained technically, I need hardly say that there's still a number of problems to solve. I guess you know them as well as anybody knows them. But I think we've proceeded far enough to justify the statement, at least, that these technical problems are not insurmountable.
So we've got two sets of metrics today, so I'm just quite keen for us to get on with that.
We've got, is it Archon and Reversal?
I've no idea. I haven't read them.
Yes, metrics of Archon, metrics of Reversal, which means next week it will be adaptive, because I was actually sent these on Friday because Let's was going to be busy. I'll see if you can get these to me a little bit sooner, and then I'm going to have to try and teach you how to use the quiz kit.
Oh God, responsibility. I'm not sure if I'm ready emotionally for that. But anyway, let's get going. So this is last week's deck data breakdown. We will have this week's as well. Thank you, Wild Wormhole, for subscribing.
Following.
For what, sorry? Following, sorry, wrong word.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, thank you. Right.
Big fun. If you like podcasts and Keyforge related content, do check out the Wild Wormhole. They've got a lovely little rivalry with called Discovery as well.
Really? I forgot about that.
Yeah.
So, just want to
The more you know.
So this week we're focusing on the Archon format. There we go. Fits a bit better on the screen now. Today we'll take a look at the game, especially comparing winning decks to losing decks. As games happen with different formats in this KOTE, there's no point looking at them on the whole. So we'll start with a focus on Archon games only. As a reminder, Archon decks are those you thought were the weakest in their lineups. Also, these decks have been played by their owners, so it's well-known decks. So well-known people playing the well-known decks. So the initial composition.
I take a little bit of issue with it being the weakest in their lineup. I don't think it'd be you choosing the one that you think is their weakest. I think you're choosing the one that's the hardest to play.
That's the one I would put for adaptive, but I think this is a different conversation. We should come on to it later. But yeah, so we can see how deck composition of winning decks and losing decks spread from average. I say, and also Brecker Salts agrees with me, so I'm happy.
Yeah.
Someone actually agrees with me. Holy crap! We can see here how deck composition of winning decks, losing decks spread from the average. So you can just see it's a polar opposite, really, can't you?
Upgrade to the kiss of death. The more upgrades you've got, the less likely you have to win.
Yeah, and actions you want, the more actions you have, the better you do, and creatures, the more near enough, close enough there.
I would love to see how this metric would have been different before the blaster change came in.
That's a fair point, actually. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
If you had the blaster change come in, I imagine that not all those decks would have seen Archon, and if you're controlling the board, Archon upgrades can be useless. I've had opponents put very good upgrades on my creatures just to get the amber pips because they don't want to just discard them.
Yeah. No, I've seen it before as well. Brecker Salts, you know quite a lot, obviously, because you agree with me. But also the artifact count here is interesting, and I can't wait till we can compare this to the other ones. The artifacts here is still quite low, and I want to see if the artifact delta is similar in the other two sets, with the other two formats. Sorry.
But I can imagine that Adaptive's going to have a fair few artifacts, and possibly Reversal as well, because there are Quicksilver Stones and DAVs out there.
Oh, there's true. There's only one or two Dark Iron Bolts, but yeah.
Yeah.
But if we look at the SAS metrics here now, I mean, we're looking at, realistically, if you're a winning deck, you're 0.2 and a bit SAS above, and if you're a losing deck, you're 0.2 and a bit SAS below. So that's
very close.
I mean, the synergy is the interesting one, that the anti-synergy is actually lower on the winners, which isn't too much of a surprise, but it's more how much higher. Well, then you're still within the margin of error at that point if you look at the actual numbers. So raw amber
everything is ridiculously close in. The averages are going to kind of come up because, as we've seen, teams are either bringing 3 very strong decks or 3 mediocre decks, because some teams are going, okay, we'll sacrifice Archon, but we'll take them in adaptive.
Yeah, and that's what we're hearing a lot. Well, sacrifice reversal, you mean?
Well, no, you sacrifice the Archon because you're going to play a weak deck against a strong deck.
Sorry, I see what you mean. Yeah, I see what you mean. So moving on, if we look at this in the graph form, the whole breakdown here, again, it's almost polar opposite as you go through, which
it is literally pretty much symmetrical.
I mean, yeah, you're seeing other we ignore because we haven't really found a good way of quantifying that or qualifying that. But the expected amber is higher in the winning decks. The artifact control is higher in the losing deck. Now that is interesting. I would expect the artifact control to be lower in the losing decks, but
well, if there's not too many artifacts, they become dead cards in your hand.
That is true.
The fact that the creature protection is in more winning decks than it is in losing decks is really...
No, creature protection's in more losing decks than winning decks.
That's what I mean.
Okay, sorry.
So the creature protection, I'm saying the creature protection in more winning decks really surprised me compared to losing decks.
Yeah.
The fact that the more exposed your creatures are, the more likely you are to win an Archon.
Yeah. I mean, creature control, efficiency, recursion, disruption is all as we would expect.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's just how similar it is. So looking over to the different sets now. Now, of course, we've got the 5 sets here. So 60% of the Call of the Archons, Archon decks won, 72% of AOA, World's Collide 46.4, Mass Mutation 40.8, and Dark Cloud is 38.5. There isn't many AOA decks, so let's be clear on that. So that's definitely going to be an anomaly, and I kind of wish we had the number of decks in brackets in each of these.
If you see something like Jenka or Brig, you're probably going to slam that into reversal, and you are going to put it into Archon.
Yeah. So it's kind of going. I want to see exactly how many decks were of each one there was here. But Dark Tidings here, yeah, Mass Mutation 2. I'd almost go as far. Let's say take AOA out the equation, and then the ones you've got.
It's winning the most
because
in Archon.
Because it's probably only 3 or 4 decks in it.
True, and the same with Dark Tidings though.
Maybe, but it's also then you have, if you take AOA out, you get a nice progression where the earlier sets are doing better because that's what people know better. So it makes my argument better if we ignore AOA and include Dark Tiding. But yeah, I mean, we are seeing generally lots more stronger decks in the.
That to me just says that AOA is an underrated set, and people are putting it in there because they're seeing these cards. And people that have put the reps in and people have put the work in with their decks.
That is true.
Know how they're going to go down. And people like Christoph, who brought Bandit, and other AOA decks that have got really strong combos and power in them, may have just been overlooked. Same as like World's Collide. If you see Brobnar in World's Collide, you might not even look at the rest of the list and go, boom, that's the Archon target. And you might not notice that it's a really powerful deck, but you've just been sidelined because of the meme that World's Collide Brobnar is about.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. So moving on to the house rate, and this is always where I find it interesting. And again, I kind of wish we had a number in brackets so we knew how many of houses of which one there were. Logos, Dis, Shadows, Untamed, Saurian, I would go as far as saying, and Brognar, that's far enough for 50-50. That's close enough to 50-50 for me. Maybe not Dis and Brognar, but only just. Mars is the only one with a significantly greater win chance. Now, unfathomable.
And I can imagine the majority of those Mars are AOA.
I reckon there's 3 Mars decks in Archon, and 2 of them won and 1 didn't. And those are both going to be
I don't know about that.
But again, it could be the same deck repeated multiple times. So
I imagine decks have only been counted once that have played in Archon.
It depends how many results he's dealing with, but yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a really hard set of stats to come together. But I mean, Star Alliance and Sanctum at lower, little surprised by that. Not massively, a little bit. Unfathomable lower, that's new, yeah.
No, I can understand that because Sanctum took a big hit. They missed out on World's Collide and Mass Mutation, they're not the strongest house in AOA. They're not the strongest house in Sanctum.
Yeah.
They've come back in Dark Tidings very strong.
That is definitely true. I hate them now. I like them before.
No, they're in Mass Mutation. Damn, yeah, Sanctum's in Mass Mutation.
Yeah.
Oh, but yeah, that would be the majority getting theirs. They've come back a lot stronger than the way they left. The Untamed Shadows get me. Starlights, yeah, I can understand. Same with Saurian. But yeah, as Christoph said, it's a sad Unfathomable, but it's a fresh set. The event literally started, a month after Unfathomable came out. It's still finding its ground.
To be fair, 2 weeks after the US got it, so...
I stand by that Unfathomable and the DT set is better than AOA, and we'll have some really good decks out there. I think Dark Times would have been accepted a lot better if it would have had a chance to be done in a sealed format rather than just relying on its sales alone.
Yeah. Well, let's just finish the time. Let's move on to the week 7 stats. Because otherwise we're gonna run out of time today. So this is this week's breakdown, and say with this because we missed out last week, we went through last week's this week. So this is exactly the same but reversal. And
exactly.
Again, we are seeing the same kind of pattern. Yes, the extreme isn't quite so much, but you are seeing the same sort of inverse pattern here. Where upgrade, if the losers are the upgrade heavy decks, and I'm really interested to see if this is the same. If we could put up this sort of stats for over a much longer time period, is that always true? Is it always the decks with more upgrades in are less likely to win?
It'd be something to watch out for, and I'd love to see if we could get data from say KOTE, which was our biggest event, if that tracked as well. But
the other thing you've got to consider is how few upgrades there actually are in a set. And as this is a 5% difference, if there's 10 upgrades, that means there's 1% or less than one extra card per set.
I guess because the biggest sets are KOTE and Mass Mutation, which aren't the greatest in their upgrades, because it's more of a Worlds Collide sort of aspect.
Yeah, that's true.
I can see that, but again, that just means that those are objectively worse. It shows that upgrades in themselves are objectively flawed, but Dark Times has got some really good upgrades like Static Charge.
Yeah, I love that card. Favourite upgrade in the entire set. Alright, moving on. SAS metrics in reversal, again, pretty similar. 2% difference. I would say there's nothing here standing out over Archon. I mean, the Raw Amber is the same, which is interesting. That's the only interesting stat I'd say. Is the Raw Amber here is identical.
Yeah, but SAS is a little bit higher, but I can understand that. And yet, Ultimo, just as you were saying, it is literally just a situation of upgrades need creatures, and if you can keep on top of your opponent's board, you can, and that's a lot of good players know that's the way to win reversal of stats. Keep on top of your opponent's board, because that's all Archon is reversal without you playing the deck.
Yeah, basically.
Well, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
Hey Jupiter.
And Ultimo, your comment that upgrades needs creatures to work. You're right completely. You need the harder work in large numbers. It's probable the reason upgrades are that common in general, with Star Alliance having rays to retrieve them like away team on walls. Yeah, no, that's a fact.
I think we need to check Litops's number here, because when we go to the SAS metrics in reversal, it is pretty much again a mirror image.
Yeah. So moving on to the SAS metrics here, I mean it's not exactly a mirror image because you can see,
close.
But it's pretty close.
Recursion's a lot higher in the winners. Effective power is a lot lower in the winners. Artifact control again being down in the for the winners.
Yeah, I mean it's I don't know, it's like we can come up with a winning deck by looking at these graphs rather than looking at the SAS number.
I mean, if you want to try and put that into effect, I'd give it a go.
But the other question I have for you: what's the winner of a SAS as a reversal? Sorry, is the winner the person who lost or won?
But the winner is the person that won. Oh, this is the Dex that won. Oh,
Yeah, so
yeah.
this is the deck. So this is technically I would say, makes sense to map onto Archon. In order that they weren't selected.
I'd have to check with Litops whether this is to do with the person's deck that won or the deck they were playing.
I think it will be the deck that was playing, which makes sense why it mirrors Archon.
If it's the deck they were playing rather than the deck they brought, that makes sense. If he's just looked at the deck the players brought, and he's saying basically it's the player that won, not the deck, then that is really interesting because. But again, it makes sense that the decks that are losing have got low disruption. So I have to do a check with Litops, but testament to Litops if he hasn't got some sort of API set up for this.
Oh, he does.
If he's got an API, because that's a lot of work going checking their pairings and then the deck that they played with in reversal.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean he's got several hundred decks. There's no way any human being can do that. Now this is comparing this to the Archon. This is where we start seeing things different.
Oh, definitely.
The only one that's significantly less was AOA and Dark Tidings are both significantly lower than before, and Mass Mutation is significantly, proportionally a lot higher, obviously.
Yeah.
But I just look at this data and I don't know what to say.
It's to say that every set has insane decks. Every set has decks that can do a lot of work, and players are good at identifying what those decks are and putting them into reversal. You look at a deck, you look at its strengths, look at its weaknesses, and a good player should know what their opponent's going to pick for them. And it becomes the head game of, well, do I pick the deck that counters the one I think they're going to pick, or do I pick the one that is their best deck and should go into reversal?
Yeah, I think that's it. So looking at the houses now, and again,
Balnor again really dulled down, but it's a lot more evened out this time.
Actually, I would say it's not. I would say before we had lots around the 50% mark. This time we only really would have, I'd say, 3 houses at the 50% mark: Logos, Shadows, and Star Alliance.
But compared to Mars's 66.
Yeah, Mars has come down, Unfathomable's come down, Broknor's going down, Star Alliance and Sanctum have gone up. Not a lot, but a bit.
And this has gone up.
This has gone up a little bit as well, yeah.
This is the top.
Well, this was like 58 to 60, so it's not a huge jump, but it is. You're seeing that there are some clear Dis, Mars, Shadows, Dis, Mars, Logos are the houses on top.
Exactly.
Yeah.